We've had lots of requests for support over the weekend and today, and our assumption is that will continue in the coming days and weeks.
What is the best way for workplaces to show their support to workers or employees?
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to go backwards and go, what actually is a traumatic experience or incident, and how does that affect us? Because I think when we have some good knowledge and understanding about that, it helps us plan effectively about how we respond. So, you know, as we've been speaking about, traumatic incidences and terror attacks are completely unexpected. We are unprepared for them, and they shatter our sense of safety and security, which from a human perspective can leave us feeling very vulnerable and on edge. So I think having that understanding of actually what's going on psychologically for people and what are the reactions that we can expect, that's really useful. And you will know, and you've been speaking with people, that some of those reactions are emotional. So people might feel sad or angry or irritable, perhaps like they want to withdraw from others, and some of those reactions can be physical. So, you know, people might find it in the workplace, for example, really difficult to concentrate, or people might find themselves on edge, for example, or getting really poor sleep because they're woken up by nightmares or thoughts. So being able to have a good understanding of that as humans, but also as leaders, is really important.
And Jacqui, is it okay to feel that way? Is it okay to be sad, to be angry?
All of those reactions are completely normal to a very abnormal situation. And I think it's really important we do not medicalise people's regular reactions in these times. So absolutely those reactions are normal. And we would presume, looking at prior terror attacks and what we know, that in the coming weeks and months that will start to dissipate for people, that people will process those emotions.
How do people deal with those emotions if they're at home, alone perhaps, watching, or with families, pretending to put on this front-faced, you know, I'm fine, I'm strong, don't worry about me? How do they deal with it?
So I think, like all of us, our reactions will be as diverse as we are, and what we need will probably be as diverse as what we are. But some of the common things that we know are really helpful is trying to keep routine as normal as possible,
right,
whilst being kind to yourself. So you don't need to be rigid in your routine, but predictability and a normal sense of routine is useful. I think reaching out and talking with people when it's on your terms is very helpful. What we know is not helpful is critical incident debriefing, where you bring in someone like me, a psychologist, and make somebody sit and talk about their events in fine detail. We know that's not helpful, but choosing to connect and have conversations with people is really helpful. Supporting other people is useful for two reasons. One, we know that when you support others, it makes you feel good, and actually it gives you a sense of control. So if we think back to that, I've lost my sense of safety or security, trying to gain some control in a very effective and helpful way is useful.
What are the signs to look out for? In
terms of if I'm feeling like I'm not processing this or it's not moving forward.
Or I may be concerned that a work colleague is feeling down and they're telling me they're not.
Yeah. So I think, again, in the days, weeks that are coming up, I think it's really important to not worry hugely if we are seeing some of those signs like anger, like irritability, etc. If those signs get in the way of people being able to live a functional life in the coming months, that's when we think we need to start to take notice. So if myself or my colleagues or my peers aren't able to engage in work or engage with people around them, if it's getting in the way of living life, that would be a red flag that, hey, maybe some extra support is needed.
How long can this last for, Jacqui?
That is a very complex question, Daniel, and you know, we could look at that from a regular viewpoint, but we're also at the moment dealing with a complex landscape. We're dealing with Christchurch that has had prior trauma, where people may have prior experiences of traumatic symptoms. We're also potentially, you know, we're dealing with a refugee community that potentially in their past they may have had prior experiences of trauma. So I don't think it's a black and white answer. I think it really is trusting your gut and trusting feedback around you about how much those symptoms are getting in the way. So we would say for the days and weeks to come, it's really normal to be experiencing a range of symptoms. If it's hanging on longer than that and getting in the way, that's when you need to take notice.
Okay. In terms of, we've had many Muslim community members come in and talk to us.
Yes.
And I've always said, how are you? And they said, if anyone asks me that question again, I'm just going to blow. Like, stop asking me how am I. How do you address that? How do you go around to...
So I think that's about consulting with people, right? And like in workplaces, you know, it's having conversations with people about how should we best put support in place.
Right.
What would be useful? Because actually, if you ask, people are able to share with you what would be helpful for them. Your how are you is coming from a genuinely good place of wanting to care. And I think we need to keep hold of that people have good intentions to want to support. But that being able to negotiate about how do we put those mechanisms in place, that's what's really useful.